What's up, fellas? We've got some NBA trade news. I'll admit I was too excited for this. The notification came through on my phone. I was like, wait, it's a real trade. We actually have someone, other than Hamidou Diallo, no offense, Hamidou, being moved. And it's PJ Tucker. It's a guy that I guaranteed was going to be moved, and he ended up going to Milwaukee Bucks. We're going to talk about the trade, what it means for both teams, the compensation. This is actually way, way more interesting than I ever thought a PJ Tucker trade would be, and that's what we're going to be talking about in the first video of the day. Really quickly, before we get started, I want to tell you about the sponsor of today's video, Ridge. For way too long, I used to carry around a traditional bulky wallet, but if you're like I used to be and you're looking for a wallet solution that is light and sleek, then Ridge has you covered. Their design combines functionality as it can carry up to 12 cards and cash with ease of use as it fits easily in your pocket. There are over 30 different style and color combinations. They're made with durable materials and they come with a lifetime warranty. So no more withering away wallets, just one simple Ridge wallet. And if you use my code SPORTING10 at checkout at ridge.com, you get 10% off as well as free international shipping. Again, SPORTING10 at checkout at ridge.com. And thank you again to Ridge for sponsoring this video. Okay, with those things said, let's talk about the PJ Tucker trade. So, the specifics of the deal. DJ Augustin and DJ Wilson are going to Houston. Rodions Kurucs and PJ Tucker are going to Milwaukee. But that's not the interesting part. We'll get into the players in a second, but the pick stuff is really, really odd. So, I have to look at my notes here because it's pretty complicated. It looks really, really crazy, but essentially this is what it breaks down to. The Bucks already owed their 2022 pick to Houston. Initially, that was a pick that they, I believe, sent to the Cavs, but then the Rockets ended up with it in the Harden trade. So the Rockets, prior to yesterday, owned the Bucks 2022 first-round pick. They told the Bucks, you know what, we'd rather have it in 2023. It's another year out where things could potentially go wrong, could be a higher pick. We want the 2023 pick instead. The Bucks said, okay, send us back the 2022 one. So they just pushed that one to 2023, essentially, by swapping 22 and 23. The Rockets also, this is the really interesting part, have the right to swap their own second-round pick this year for Milwaukee's first-round pick this year. Now, it's probably not going to be that big of a jump in the draft order because you would imagine the Rockets are going to be, near the top of the second round, somewhere in the 30s, and the Bucks are going to be near the bottom of the first round, somewhere in the 20s. But still, I've just never heard of this before, and so anytime that happens, I find it really, really interesting. I've never heard of a second round for first round swap, and it makes me kind of think about all the different things teams could potentially do as it relates to protections and swaps and stuff, all the different, language you can put into these trades to do stuff we've never seen before. I think this is one of those. So essentially, that's what it is. The Rockets are pushing out their 2022 pick that they already got from the Bucks out to 23, and they're moving up their second round pick in this year's draft into what is going to basically be a late first round pick from Milwaukee, and they're getting DJ Augustin, DJ Wilson, who probably won't help them a ton. DJ Wilson is kind of interesting, but at the end of the day, from a player standpoint, this is mostly about Milwaukee. Now, before we get to the players, one more draft pick thing about Houston. There's the possibility exists, the likelihood exists that they're going to have 3 first round picks in this 2021 class. The Milwaukee pick that they, got in this potential pick swap, second round swap thing. They're probably gonna end up with a late first round pick via Milwaukee in this class. They also have Portland's first round pick via the Rocco trade. And I've looked into this a couple of times. I think I finally understand how this 3-way pick swap thing works between them, Miami, and Oklahoma City. If Houston's pick this year falls within the top 4, they keep the pick. It's theirs. In the top 4 for 2021, the Rockets keep their own pick. If it's outside of the top 4, I believe they get a last choice between their own pick, Miami's pick, and Oklahoma City. And presumably, the last pick out of those 3 would be Miami. Could even be, in the 20s, if not the late teens. So the Rockets would go from a top 4 pick to all the way down at the bottom of those 3 selections. That's the way the pick swap thing works. So there's a lot of motivation for Houston to be bad, for them to tank. That's part of the reasoning for this. They're already bad enough because of all the injuries and things like that. But that's kind of how that works out. So the Rockets, as of now, this new trade can go from, let's see, 2 probably late first, depending on where Portland ends up, and a top 4 pick in this class, or 3 late first. All 3 of the, or both those things could possibly happen as it relates to these picks. Now, the players. PJ Tucker in Milwaukee is a fit that I like. I think it's the kind of player that they need. They got very, very top heavy with the Drew Holiday trade. They knew it when they made the deal, and this is a move that kind of allows them to have a little bit more depth. Now, granted, DJ Augustin was supposed to be a depth guy as well when they brought him in the offseason, but what they really need is someone on the wing that can guard, can defend, can shoot, all those different things. And that way they're relying less on guys like Dante DiVincenzo, who I like, but in a postseason series, you'd probably rather have someone more experienced, and Pat Connaughton, who ditto for him, and Pat Connaughton just isn't as good as DiVincenzo. So I'm adding some wing depth to this Milwaukee roster is a huge, huge plus. It helps them be able to defend teams like Brooklyn a little bit easier, and that lineup versatility of Tucker being able to play on the wing, play the 4, or even all the way up to the 5 in late game lineups, or the de facto 5 if Giannis is out there, along with PJ Tucker potentially at the end of games. The worry here, if you're a Bucks fan, is this is your one move. Like from a roster perspective, there's nothing else you can do. You don't have picks, you don't have contracts, you don't have anything. It's just PJ Tucker's the guy you added, and it's possible that he's just washed. Now, it's also possible that it's been a really tough season in Houston. He's kind of melded in and he's waiting on his opportunity on a true contender, and I wouldn't blame him for that one bit. But it's also possible that he's 35 years old, he's on an expiring contract, and he's just washed and he doesn't have it anymore. And that would be the concern if you're Milwaukee, because again, there's nowhere else to go. You can't do anything else with your roster outside of trading someone like Chris Middleton, which isn't happening. And that would obviously put them in a really, really tough spot. For Houston, it's pretty self-explanatory. They're trying to be bad. They understand that this top 4 protection thing is now really coming into play. They didn't think that was going to be a thing in the beginning of the year, but now that they've lost, they lost 20 games in a row or something ridiculous? They've lost a lot of games in a row. They are racing towards the bottom of the Western Conference standings, and smartly so. And this lottery for a couple of teams in the West is going to be nerve-wracking. If you're a Timberwolves fan, if you're a Rockets fan, this lottery is going to be, it's going to be must-see television for most of us, but for you specifically as those fans, it's going to be a really difficult one to sit through. To go from, again, as I understand it, the Rockets have the last pick out of these 3 swaps unless it's top 4. And then for Minnesota, of course, the top 3 pick we've talked about plenty of times. But I mean, ultimately, I like the move for both teams. I would be a little bit nervous if I was about, like, I wanted the Nets to trade for PJ Tucker, full transparency. But there's always that, you know, a bit of anxiety in the back of your mind where you're like, well, you know, what if we're just assuming PJ Tucker has something left? What if we're assuming we're getting old PJ Tucker? What if there's nothing there? That would be a concern for me, 100%. But I do like the move for both teams. I knew that the Rockets were going to end up trading PJ Tucker. There was a 0% chance that he was going to last past the trade deadline in Houston. And so to get some kind of value for him, even if it's just pushing a first-round pick back and moving up from an early second to a late first, and, you know, DJ Wilson, who could be something, and DJ Augustine, who's at least a contract you can move later on, I think that's pretty solid value. It's nothing crazy, but it's good value for PJ Tucker, again, considering, you know, what he has shown to this point this season. And Milwaukee adds depth in a place that they desperately needed. They're going to continue to be active on the buyout market. This opens up, you know, possibly some spots for them where they could potentially go out and get somebody in a buyout market, open up some roster spots if they need to. I think Kurucs is still a good player, by the way. I was a little bit surprised he was involved in this. I know he's not, you know, a hugely impactful guy, but he had moments in Brooklyn. Maybe he'll get some run as a bigger wing there in Milwaukee, but ultimately the deal is about PJ Tucker. We'll see what Milwaukee continues to do. As I said yesterday, I still think the Nets are the best team in the East. Then I would put the Sixers right below them, and then I would put the Bucks right below them. So ultimately, you know, it makes sense that Milwaukee's trying to make moves to move up and trying to do something. But as we continue to talk about, this is it. They're being aggressive. They're using their picks, which I respect. But at some point, you get to the end of the line, and there aren't any more moves to make. And this is the last move. So you're going to the postseason. You've got Holiday, who I like. Love the upgrade over Eric Bledsoe. Middleton, very good player. Giannis, of course, multiple-time MVP. PJ Tucker. And then DiVincenzo, Connaughton, Lopez, you know what I mean? Like, I still don't know who the 5th guy is, but I at least feel better about the 4th one. And it's just going to come down to that endgame lineup. I think the Bucks are good enough. They shoot the ball well enough. They play well enough to be in games for, you know, 40 minutes. But in the last 8 minutes, in the last 5 minutes, how are they going to come up with buckets? Who's going to be the guy they're going to give the ball to at the end of games? How are they going to compete with that Nets big 3? How are they going to compete with Joel Embiid as an offensive force? That's my question. And this trade does not solve that for me. So for me, I like the fact that they added PJ Tucker. I think it's a good move, again, because of the depth that they gave up and the fact that they became so top heavy, but it does not change the hierarchy for me. I still think it's Brooklyn, then it's Philly, then it's Milwaukee. All 3 of those teams could make the finals, but that's still the order that I have them in as of the recording of this video. But that is going to be the end of the first video of the day, and I thank you guys very much for watching. As I said in the beginning, my name is Tucker. If you enjoy the content, check out more videos from me. Check out the boxes on screen, leave a like rating on them, and you can check me out at various socials and a Linktree link down in the description below. Hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. Be on the lookout for a second video of the day from me where we talk about some possible trade scenarios with the Orlando Magic. And yeah, hope you guys have a fantastic Thursday. Stay safe, and I will see you all next time.